We're less than a week away from the worst pay-per-view that we've had in ages. UFC 312 is unbelievably stacked. It's an incredible card. Only hardcore fans are hyped for this. And if you're not, again, you just aren't a big UFC fan. There are so many good fights. There's so much depth to this card. The co-main event is better than the main event. And I can't wait to give my predictions and my breakdowns. A real hardcore fan's treat. Okay? I'm just joking. But you know what's not a joke? What's not a joke is the Real Food Cookbook and the method to the madness behind the Ultimate Lifting Program. That's right. I'm going to be sponsoring this video with my Ultimate Lifting Program and Real Food Cookbook. This is a cookbook that's designed to help people get lean without having to resort to a meager bro diet where they're eating chicken and broccoli and they're eating cod and cauliflower or they're eating tilapia. Listen, your diet doesn't have to be boring. You can be eating big, hearty meals with whole and unprocessed ingredients. That's the name of the game, and I've created this cookbook, which has over 30 recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert, so that you guys can have tasty and hearty meals to power you through a diet, even if you're getting lean, so you don't have to be miserable. We've got butter chicken. We have cookies as well. Even the old-fashioned ham sandwich. I'm joking. Dude, there ain't no ham sandwich in the Real Food Cookbook, but there are eggs and toast. Okay? So, if you guys want, check it out. And also the Ultimate Lifting Program. That's the program for intermediate lifters, advanced lifters. If you've hit a plateau and you want to try a new program that's going to help you break through that plateau, check that out as well. It'll take you step by step into improving in the gym and getting stronger and putting on mass. Once again, if you're interested, guys, check out the link in the description. Use code MMA for 30% off. But now, let's get into this. Hyunsung Park and Nyamjargal, Tumendemberel. Okay? I just think Park's going to get him, right? I just think that I've seen Nyamjargal. He goes in there, and there always seems to be a moment in his fights where he sort of slips away from the game plan and sort of gets away from it and sort of loses his head. But Hyunsung Park, I think he has got a really bad style. Let's stop messing around, guys. We don't know what the heck's going to happen in this fight, okay? Hyunsung Park, coming off of a KO over Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross, I believe, has been cut from the UFC, right? He's known for having, like, the worst chin at flyweight. He is like one of the smallest, least durable flyweights that the UFC's ever had. Hyunsung Park's coming off of KO over him, so a lot of people are going to be picking him just based on that and the fact that Nyamjargal doesn't have a win in the UFC yet, I believe. This is a road to the UFC guy, but I think he lost his UFC debut, or he definitely lost his last fight. They both have a similar record, 9-0 Hyunsung Park and 8-1 Nyamjargal. Nyamjargal has a crazy reach advantage in this fight, 71-inch reach. That's going to be a 5-inch reach advantage to the Hyunsung Park of 66 T-Rex inches. And we also have to take into consideration the styles. Hyunsung Park is a very similar style to Doo Ho Choi on the feet without being as wild. Like, he's got the short arm punches. He stays pretty technical. He's got some decent combinations. And Nyamjargal is very wild on the feet. He's a wild slugger, big winging hooks. I'm going to take Hyunsung Park because both of these guys are hittable. And even though Nyamjargal has a reach advantage, and don't be surprised if he sleeps Hyunsung Park in the first round because he's going to be wild early on. But I think that Nyamjargal, from what I've seen, is much more hittable in his fights. Like, he really is swinging for the fences, leaving his chin on the silver platter. And I just think like a good short arm punch counter shot from Hyunsung Park could put this guy out. So I'm going to be picking Hyunsung Park to get this one done. I think he's a little bit crisper, a little bit cleaner in his striking. But now let's get on to Quillan Salkilld versus Anshul Jubli. Quillan's record is not 1-0. I think I've learned at this point that a lot of these road to the UFC guys, Dana White Contender Series guys, there's always a glitch on the UFC website, and it says that they're like 1-0. I believe he's I think he's like 9-2 or something like that, or 8-1. He's got a pretty good record. However, he's not that impressive. He's not very fast. He's a decent grappler and he can push a good pace. I've seen some of his fights where he's pushing a pace and he's getting the better of some other fighters that have decent experience. Like, he's fought some decent level of competition outside of the UFC. But Anshul Jubli, he's the Lion King for a reason, man. He's got good wrestling. He can shoot takedowns. He can impose his will. Lost his first fight to Mike Breeden, who kind of punked him a little bit in that third round, started yelling at him. But maybe the octagon jitters. Maybe a little bit of a case of the octagon jitters for Anshul Jubli. He's got a whole billion people that are going to be pulling for him. So he's got a whole lot of, there's going to be a whole lot of energy for Anshul Jubli because he's got a whole continent. So you got to expect him to be coming in here hungry. But Quillan Salkilld is going to be going in there looking to shut down Anshul Jubli, and he's going to be looking to fraud check him again. So, I mean, there's a big difference. One guy, he's fighting for $1 billion. The other guy, he is trying to put Anshul Jubli in his place, bro. I mean, this is going to be a really interesting fight. Like, the mentality of a fraud checker, you got to understand what that's going to be like. Quillan Salkilld is going to be going in there, and he's going to have absolutely no pressure. This is kind of what I'm getting at, no pressure. Whereas Jubli's going to have a ton of pressure. Because, again, he's the one male UFC fighter from India. This is massive for that country. But, again, what was the thing that failed him in his first fight? The thing that failed him was the cardio. And the pressure mixed in with a fight against somebody that's going to be able to push a pace, who's going to be stronger than him, because Quillan Salkilld is a pretty strong fighter. Again, good grappling. He can push a good pace. I think he's going to have a slightly better gas tank. And the grappling for Anshul Jubli, which I think is actually one of his best attributes, I don't know if it's going to be that great. So I'm going to go with Quillan Salkilld to win this fight by decision. Because, again, it's like there's a lot of pressure on Jubli, and his gas tank isn't that great. And his bread and butter seems to be the grappling, where Quillan's got that. So I'm going with Quillan. But let's get on to the next one. Man. Jonathan Micallef versus Kevin Jousset. This is one of those fights where you really have to sit back and just sort of, thank your lucky stars that you're able to watch the UFC in the modern era because of just how blessed we are to see such an amazing fight. Man, this card just keeps getting better. Listen, I'm picking Kevin Jousset. Kevin Jousset actually is entertaining. Like, I'm not trying to slight this fight too bad. It's just like another one of these fucking, black and white UFC fighters that's not even made his debut yet. Like, I think this is the third fight. Yeah, the third fight where we have somebody that hasn't even made their UFC debut yet. This is a pay-per-view, by the way. It's ridiculous. Jonathan Micallef, 1-0 record. Probably not 1-0. He's okay. He's all right. But I can't pick him to beat Kevin Jousset, who has been battle-tested at this point, that's got a couple wins in the UFC, right? Sort of fights like a off-brand Adesanya, and still looked pretty good in his last fight. He actually won the first round against Bryan Battle. Now, Bryan Battle, he's not looking so great these days. I actually think Battle lost his last fight, robbed Randy Brown. That was a terrible robbery. But listen, he showed up to fight Kevin Jousset, looked really good, but he lost the first round. Kevin Jousset outstriking Bryan Battle, that's pretty impressive, but just got kind of outdogged in that fight. Bryan Battle sort of Max Holloway, Brian Ortega'd him in the second round, threw the kitchen sink at him with boxing combinations, outdogged him, sort of broke him up against the fence. But Bryan Battle's very comfortable in those brawls. He's very comfortable in that chaos. Jonathan Micallef is going to be making his UFC debut. I believe he's fighting out of Australia. Kevin Jousset trains in New Zealand, but he's from France. So Jonathan Micallef's going to have, he's going to have some people in the stands cheering him on. But this is a tough UFC debut because Kevin Jousset, he has a grappling background. He's got a judo black belt. We've seen him submit Kiefer Crosby from Ireland. Submitted him in the first round. He got a decision over the guy that dropped Ian Gary. I forget his name. Good striker, high output. He can play the range game, and he can take you down. So he's just well-rounded everywhere. And Jonathan Micallef, until I actually see this guy do something in the UFC, I'm going to pick somebody that's good in Kevin Jousset. He's not just like a random welterweight. He's a pretty good welterweight prospect, so I'm picking him to win this fight. How is he going to get it done? I'm going to go with a finish for Kevin Jousset. I think he's probably going to be able to get himself maybe a second or third round finish. Let's get on to the next one. Cody Steele versus Rongzhu. I'm picking Cody Steele. Did a little bit of research on this one. Cody Steele has nasty power in his hands, okay? He's got a lot of KOs, and he's got a really good grappling base as well. So he's well-rounded. He's got dynamite in his hands. He sleeps a lot of people, undefeated. Rongzhu, just not that impressive. I mean, he's okay, but I think that we're going to see a Cody Steele KO in this fight. So I'm going to pick Cody Steele to get this one done by like a first or second round KO. Now we get on to the first really interesting fight, and that is Colby Thicknesse versus Aleksandar Topuria. Man, I just think Colby's going to get him. No, I'm joking. I think Aleksandar Topuria is probably going to win this fight. However, it is going to be a lot closer than most people think. Bedtime, by the way, I'm calling out bedtime. You know, I think Bedtime's been saying a lot of good things about this weekend's main event. Absolutely. But I'm sorry, man. Listen, dude, I'm a Colby fan. All right? But he's not going to win this one. Here's the reason why a lot of people are picking Aleksandar Topuria. I mean, picking against him. And not a lot of people. Only a few. It's because he might be one of the biggest can crushers that we've seen since Bellator MVP. All right? And it's even worse. Aleksandar Topuria is fighting people that have like a record of 7-18. Some of them literally have records of 1-9. Just look it up on Tapology. So he's fighting absolute cans. Whereas Colby Thicknesse has been this. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He has faced much better levels of competition, and he's been able to weather storms. That's one thing I really see from Colby. This is one of Volkanovski's main training partners, by the way, if not his main training partner. I know that some people still kind of think, oh, Volk's a CKB guy. Volk trains at CKB like a couple weeks out of the year for the most part. But for the most part, as I said, he trains in Wollongong with Joe Lopez, and Colby is his main training partner. He's well-rounded. He's doing specifics. He's done the work with Craig Jones. But Aleksandar Topuria, man, there's been some talk about this is the better Topuria, the real Topuria. There's been some talk, right? Again, this is a very nuanced fight. I actually love this fight. Some of these, this is like one of the best fights ever, honestly. This is a hardcore fan's fight. This is actually how you know you're a hardcore fan, when you care about this one. So Aleksandar Topuria, some people say he's the better Ilya, right? Some people say, man, dude, people talked about Ilya. This guy's even better. Apparently, injuries have sort of plagued his career. But again, he's fought absolute cans, man. Absolute cans. But he's dominated them. So we need to make that clear. He has dominated them. For the most part, he's gone to his grappling, and he's been able to impose his will there, stay very patient on the feet. But this is the thing. This is the reason why I am going to pick Aleksandar. And I know some people are going to speed past this breakdown just because they're going to be like, well, obviously he wins. Well, it's not actually so obvious, because this is a very interesting fight if it goes past the first round. Aleksandar Topuria, he, although has not been tested by decent levels of competition and has had basically every fight go his way, he still looks to be incredibly technically sound. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He has very fast hands and crisp boxing, just like his brother Ilya. And his wrestling, his submission game, his control ability on the ground is there. And physically, he's stronger than Colby. I believe he's a better athlete. So don't be surprised if Aleksandar Topuria sort of bulldozes him and takes him down easily in the first. However, the specifics training, okay, with Craig Jones, with Volk, the cardio. This is something that I've seen from Colby in his fights. I've seen this guy get the shit beat out of him in the first round multiple times. I've seen this guy almost get finished, get like knocked down with front kicks, and he comes back to win those fights. So this is somebody that can get dropped early, that will come back because he's got really good pressure. He has no quit in him at all. He's faced adversity. He's got good grappling, and he's got a decent kicking game. Doesn't have a whole lot of pop, right? Doesn't have a whole lot of pop, but he's tough, and he's also going to be fighting in his backyard, so that's going to give him an extra boost. Okay, so I think that Topuria, listen, I just think he is better. I mean, from what I've seen, he just looks to be the more dangerous fighter. Doesn't make as many mistakes. Even though he's fighting cans, it's like, dude, I don't see him getting completely walloped in the first round by some of these people that Colby is fighting. Although some of the people that Colby's fought are pretty okay. They look pretty decent. But the point is, he just looks very good. And this is why I disagree at bedtime. Just with the eye test, Aleksandar Topuria just looks like Ilia Topuria with the way that he fights. You know, high guard, doesn't have a ton of output, but when he throws, he's backing you up. He seems to have a lot of power. He's very explosive. Grappling seems very similar to Ilia. They've trained together for most of their lives. Aleksandar Topuria is going to get him out of there. I think he's going to be able to finish him. However, it's going to be difficult for him to finish him on the ground, so I think Aleksandar Topuria is actually going to hurt him on the feet. So I'm going to pick Topuria to get this one done by a first-round KO. Okay, first-round KO, or he's going to drop Colby and finish him on the ground with a TKO or submission. I'm picking a first-round finish here. But if this goes into the second round, if this goes into the third, because I think Aleksandar Topuria, he's probably thinking he's going to destroy Colby in this one. If this goes into the second and third, I think Colby has a really good chance to win those rounds. I really do. Because I could see Topuria having an adrenaline dump. And I think Colby kind of realizes that this is going to be tough early on. But ultimately, the reason I'm picking Aleksandar is because he's so much more explosive. He seems very perfect in the way that he approaches fights. He's going to get this one done. I just think the skill gap and the athleticism is going to be there for Topuria. Volk is going to be in the corner for Colby. Aleksandar Topuria is going to have Ilia in his corner. We're going to get a Volk and Ilia face-to-face this fight week probably. There'll be some interesting interactions. But let's get on to something that's even more interesting. I actually uploaded a 2.5-hour breakdown on Wang Cong versus Bruna Brasil. I did this on my boxing channel for the boxing fans that may be interested in MMA. Obviously, the real hardcore fights. I'm a hardcore MMA fan, of course, but you guys know how I love boxing. And I get really deep into the weeds in the boxing channel videos. Wang Cong versus Bruna Brasil is an incredibly in-depth fight. And I just think, I don't want to give too much away. You guys can check it out on my boxing channel. But listen, I'm going to pick Bruna Brasil, all right? Wang Cong, she seems to be sort of an aura merchant, all right? She's got the Mrs. Smiley pants. She's got the, hey, yeah, man. She's got one of those. Dude, she's got like, oh man, she's got like the fucking, she's trying to be like, the bad man of the bad woman of the division, the bad woman. She's trying to be the fucking bad guy for division, all right? And I don't know, man, it like doesn't work. It's like, you can't really be that intimidating if you're in the women's flyweight, but whatever. She's wearing the face paint. Man, she's got a little bit of the vibe of the women jokers, okay? She's got the women joker vibe. And she's got a really good 1-2. She's got a very good 1-2. She's got a very good 1-2. But Bruna Brasil is just a marauder. And that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. She's just hungry and dangerous. And ultimately, she has the UFC experience, all right? Like, actually, let's get real for a second. Let's be 100% serious. Wang Cong, she's dangerous. She's going to have the approach of a highlight merchant. She's going to go in there looking for highlights. I just think that Bruna Brasil, a lot more UFC experience. She's being counted out in this one, but she's faced much better levels of competition. She's just more well-rounded. And listen, this is going to be an interesting fight, but I think that Bruna Brasil is just going to be more well-rounded, and she's going to get this one done. But I'm looking forward to this. Let's get on to the next one. Viacheslav Borshchev versus Tom Nolan. This is actually a good fight. I'm picking Viacheslav Borshchev. Even though Viacheslav Borshchev has a bit of a Whitaker chin, he's one of these guys, you hit him clean, and he'll definitely do the Irish jig. Tom Nolan has himself a pretty serious weight cut. All right, I believe Tom Nolan's 6'3" in the lightweight division. cuts a lot of weight, got brutally KO'd by Mota in his UFC debut. He's got a reach advantage, 73-inch reach, 4-inch reach advantage. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. And he's the younger guy. But Viacheslav Borshchev, even though he looks like he's in his mid-40s, he is actually only in his early 30s. Viacheslav Borshchev just got absolutely dominated by Chase Hooper, though. Got dropped in the first. Big, gnarly overhand, right? But Viacheslav Borshchev is not fighting a grappler that he has to be worried about, who's going to be faking him out with a level change and an overhand. Sure, Tom Nolan might catch him with an overhand. But I think that Viacheslav Borshchev, if Tom Nolan's smart, he's going to mix in the wrestling very early. Even if he doesn't have it, he's going to have to mix it in very early to get Viacheslav thinking. And then that'll open up the big shots. But I think that this is going to be a striking battle. I think Tom Nolan, he's going to have the long-rangey striking game. The further this fight goes, if Tom Nolan doesn't finish Viacheslav very early, we've seen how good Viacheslav Borshchev's combinations are. He's incredibly fast. He's got 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces. Very slick combinations. He's a better striker. And I think he's got really good inside pocket boxing. So I think that I'm going to pick Viacheslav Borshchev to win this by a decision. His power, his pop is not insane, but I think that he's going to piece up Tom Nolan. And I don't think he's going to put him away, but he's going to get some respect with the power in his hands. So Viacheslav Borshchev gets this one done. The only thing that I'm worried about is his chin. He does seem to get hurt pretty easily. But yeah, it's not like Tom Nolan has like this devastating power. So Viacheslav gets it done via experience, and he's very fast. So I'm picking him to win this. He's got a bit of a technical maestro boxing style. Let's get on to the next one. Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos. Jack Jenkins is going to win this fight. He is being doubted. I see a lot of people picking Gabriel Santos, and he's pretty good. He's pretty decent. He's coming off of a win, a decision win. Jack Jenkins, on the other hand, this is the guy that got his arm broken, his arm dislocated or something like that, or maybe it was his shoulder against Sheppy Mariscal. But he was winning the fight against Sheppy Mariscal, and why do I bring that up? Because Sheppy Mariscal is a beast. Sheppy Mariscal is a really dangerous fighter who has endless cardio, who's incredibly well-rounded, that has power on the feet, and for Jack Jenkins to have been outstriking him, I think that's a pretty good look. I'm picking Jack Jenkins to get this one done. He doesn't have the best boxing. It's decent, though, but his kicks are great. He's got really good output. He's going to have the home field advantage in this one, and I think his grappling is pretty decent. I just think he's a better, well-rounded, and overall striker than Gabriel Santos. And he's pretty tough as well. So Jack Jenkins, great kicking game, decent boxing, but also just in general has a really good gas tank and an ability to impose his will. So I'm going to pick Jack Jenkins to get this one done by decision. Let's get on to the next one. Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado. So Francisco Prado, he is the Argentinian Drew Dober. And Jake Matthews has been in the UFC since the 90s, even though he's only 30. This is an interesting one because, a couple years ago, Jake Matthews had that next level performance that he's reached a whole new level performance against, what's his name? He had a name, the Portuguese guy that got slept like 5 times. He had like a year where he went on a 3 KO win streak. It was 2022. He had like 3 KOs in a row and then he just fell off and had like 4 KO losses. Fialho. I think it was Fialho. Either way, Jake Matthews schooled him, and everyone was thinking Fialho was going to go in there and beat him. Schooled him. Everyone was like, damn, Jake Matthews is the truth. Right? And then he fights, I think it was Morales. He fights Michael Morales, sort of a boring one. He gets beat there. And since then, we've just not seen Jake Matthews replicate that like unbelievable next level star aligning performance that he had against Fialho. And Francisco Prado, he has much less experience. He's less well-rounded, very durable. He's like a Drew Dober. He looks like it has like a similar shaped head. Very tough. Sort of got the same arm punches and all that. But I think that I'm going to go with Jake Matthews. I think he's going to lean on his experience and his craftiness to get this one done. He has decent grappling. not the best ability to impose his will. It seems like at times Jake Matthews just sort of taps around on the feet and circles around his opponents, not doing a whole lot. So maybe we could get a bit of a boring fight, but I actually don't think so now that I think about it, because Francisco Prado is going to march forward and rely on his chin to be able to land big bombs. And I think Jake Matthews is going to be able to counter him pretty well. 73-inch reach for Jake Matthews. So he's going to have a pretty significant reach advantage. He's going to have the grappling advantage, the experience advantage. And again, Francisco Prado, the way he's going to win this fight is by marching forward, trying to land a big bomb. I think Jake Matthews is going to piece him up on the back foot, because I actually think that Matthews does really well when it comes to counter striking, right? And he lost that fight to Michael Morales because Morales was like playing the range game and kind of getting him there a little bit. But Prado's going to move forward, and I just think Matthews is too slick for him. So you know what? I'm going to go with the Jake Matthews decision. I would pick finish if this was after the Fialho fight, but it just seems like it's always going to be a decision with Jake Matthews. So let's get on to the next one. All right. Things are getting serious now. Alex Pereira at home versus Jimmy Crute. Rodolfo Bellato is a beast. He had one of the best comebacks in UFC history against Ihor Potieria, who almost finished him in the first round. This was at UFC 280, or not 281. That was a long time ago. This was the Yuri Prohaska and Alex Pereira first fight at Madison Square Garden. Rodolfo Bellato damn near got finished and was able to turn the tide and TKO'd Ihor Potieria. Insane toughness. The Dana White Contender Series, he was getting his ass kicked early too, and then just broke his opponent in the clinch. So Rodolfo Bellato is just like extremely tough. He does really well in the clinch up against the fence and just breaks people. That's really his style. Body shots, elbows, knees in the clinch, breaking people, weathering a storm. Jimmy Crute is probably going to be looking to grapple in this one. He's been out of the cage for a long time, got finished by Alonzo Menafield, dropped and then submitted. His chin is not great. His striking is not good. He's got the T-Rex arms. So, Rodolfo, although he has gotten his ass kicked a little bit on the feet in his, most recent fights, and his chin is not that great, I just don't think Jimmy Crute is going to be the person that makes him pay. I don't think Jimmy Crute is a slick striker. So I actually think this is a really good matchup for Rodolfo on the feet. The only thing I'm worried about is, again, Jimmy Crute taking him down. He does have pretty good grappling, so that could be the way that he wins. And also, he's had a lot of time off. He's let his chin heal. He's going to be going in there with the y'all must have forgot mentality, refreshed. And you know how people take a lot of time off and they're a grappler. They'll come back and have like a super safe path of least resistance performance. I think it's very possible that Jimmy Crute has one of those and just sort of gets a smudge submission or just nullifies Rodolfo for 3 rounds. But I think I'm picking Rodolfo Bellato, man. This guy is super hungry. He's got an insanely good gas tank. And I think that if Jimmy Crute doesn't finish him early, because I think Rodolfo's got to know that the only chance Crute has is on the ground, so he's probably been brushing up a whole lot on his grappling. I think he's going to get this one done. I just think he's got a much better chance to finish Crute on the feet than Crute has to finish Bellato on the ground. So I'm going to go with Rodolfo Bellato in part because he's got aura, okay? And also he's just more entertaining. So I might be a little bit biased. I could definitely see Crute winning because, as I said, long layoff, y'all must have forgot mentality type of thing. Everyone's going to be like, Crute's overrated, Crute's not that good, and then he's going to come back and have like the best performance of his career maybe. But I think Rodolfo's just going to get it done, man. I'm going with aura. I'm going with entertainment value. Rodolfo Bellato, TKO, up against the fence. This may not age that well, but either way, let's get on to the next one. The heavyweight matchup heard around the world, the one that we've been looking forward to. Thaleson Teixeira working his way into a UFC debut feature fight on a pay-per-view card. $80 for Thaleson Teixeira. $80 for Teixeira versus Justin Tafa. Anyway, it's not working, but I'm trying to pull it up on the screen. Either way, Justin Tafa versus Thaleson Teixeira. Teixeira is going to have the reach advantage. He's going to have the height advantage. He's like, built like a Lucas Bresky, but a little bit leaner, if that makes sense. A little bit denser and a little bit leaner. version of Lucas Bresky. If you guys know Lucas Bresky, he's like the flabby Luka Doncic in the heavyweight division. Doesn't have a whole lot of pop. Got KO'd in his last fight. Justin Tafa is probably going to KO Talashin Teixeira. People are picking Talashin because he's got the like height advantage, the reach advantage, and he's KO'd a couple of cans. But everyone thought Austin Lane was going to beat Justin Tafa back in the day, or a lot of people did, because he was athletic and he was tall and all that. And then Justin Tafa slept him easily. Tafa doesn't really seem to have an issue with these long, rangy, slow heavyweights. I think the way to beat Justin Tafa is just to out-grapple him or to actually be a solid striker, which there are not many. Okay? Talashin Teixeira, from what I've seen, is not a grappler. He's a guy that likes to KO people on the feet. He doesn't have the power of Justin Tafa. And Justin Tafa is actually kind of fast. And his kicks are pretty fast too. He's very explosive. So I'm going to pick Justin Tafa to get a first-round KO. But again, this is on the main card of a pay-per-view. Justin Tafa should not be a feature fight on a pay-per-view, let alone Talashin Teixeira. Like, this is just unacceptable. It's pathetic. But Justin Tafa will get this one done by KO. I'm picking him to win this one. Let's get on to the co-main event. Zhang Weili versus Tatiana the Boogie Woman Suarez. Whoa. She makes people look like they're not training at all. Joe Rogan would have an aneurysm over this fight, man. Joe Rogan would literally fucking cry breaking down the idiosyncrasies of Tatiana Suarez. And he would talk about her like she's got the ferociousness of a babe. I'm not buying the hype, guys. I'm not buying the hype. You could say that I'm saying that because I kind of just want Zhang Weili to win. Just because Zhang Weili, you know, she's actually one of the few women's MMA fighters that's actually fast and explosive and like has really, really solid skills. I just think Tatiana's overrated. I'm sorry. This ain't even a biased pick. This is just a real pick. Zhang Weili is getting this done. She has showed a tremendous skill gap over her division for a long time. She had some issues with Rose Namajunas on the ground, but Namajunas is no slouch on the ground. She's no slouch on the ground. She's always been a tough cookie to deal with on the ground. And Tatiana Suarez, she's got a really good ground game, of course. That's her thing. That's her bread and butter. She says she's the female Habib. But again, she hardly fights. She's only a year younger than Zhang Weili. I was under the impression that Tatiana was like, 30 or something, and Zhang Weili's getting up there. She's 35, but Tatiana Suarez is 34. She's been around for a long time. Zhang Weili has just, for every one of Tatiana Suarez's fights, Zhang Weili has 3 fights, and Zhang only fights once every year. So she's been brushing up. She's learned her lessons against Rose Namajunas. She's got great grappling. She's explosive, and she's dangerous. And Tatiana Suarez doesn't have a whole lot of pop. All right, and she's not very fast. Sure, Zhang Weili's taken a lot of damage throughout her career. Maybe she could get hurt with a long looping punch of Suarez with the threat of the takedown, but I just don't think Tatiana is that dominant. I'm sorry. I don't think she is. I think all the people that Suarez is beating, Zhang Weili is running through them. She just is. Zhang Weili would finish them easier. She's getting this one done. It's like a very hard, like, oh, I'm a real hardcore and picking Tatiana. Well, actually, Zhang Weili is just better. Okay? All right, but let me tell you why. All right? She's faster. Let's get that out of the way. She's just faster. All right? She hits harder. All right? She has good combinations. She actually can impose her will on the feet, and her wrestling has improved throughout her career. In her past few fights, she's used her wrestling to dominate her opponents. And she's shorter. She's 5'4". 5'5" is Tatiana Suarez. Suarez has a 3-inch reach advantage. So she's just got a compact build, and I think she's going to be able to, like, out-scramble Tatiana in moments because she is compact, and it's going to be kind of hard to get a hold of her. So, she's going to win. She's just more well-rounded. But if we have a new champion, it could be kind of interesting. We'll see. It depends on what the contenders are like. But yeah, I'm going to go with Zhang Weili to get that one done. Let's get on to the main event. Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis 2. I'm going with Dricus Du Plessis to win this by decision. I picked him to win by KO last time, and I see a lot of people saying that Dricus is going to destroy Sean. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he finished Adesanya. That's a big win, a finish over somebody with a lot of popularity, over one of the best middleweights ever, whereas Sean Strickland had his shittiest performance of his entire career against Paulo Costa. And he also lost a round to Paulo Costa, who was kind of effortlessly hitting him in the body at times. People are really not liking Sean Strickland these days. And people are starting to have a lot more respect for Dricus Du Plessis as one of the best fighters, pound for pound. And I think that's kind of throwing them off from understanding this matchup stylistically, because this is the same fight as the first one. Like, Dricus Du Plessis hitting Adesanya, who's easier to hit than Sean Strickland, does not mean, oh, all of a sudden he's going to run through Sean Strickland. Like, he couldn't take down Sean Strickland and hold him down at all, because Strickland has unbelievable takedown defense and very good ability to scramble back up to his feet. Nobody holds Strickland down anymore. I'm sure Hamzat could, but I don't think Dricus can do it. But all of a sudden, because he beat Adesanya, now he means business. Oh, man. Dude, Sean Strickland's boring. We're all calling him out. Now Dricus means business. It's the same thing. It's still going to be hard for Dricus to hit Strickland. It's going to be a lot easier for Strickland to hit Du Plessis. But as the rounds go, Dricus Du Plessis is going to mix it up. He's going to start to land to the head of Sean Strickland. Strickland's going to start to respect Dricus more. And it's going to be like a razor-close fight. It's going to be incredibly close. The reason why I picked Dricus, though, despite the fact that I know Sean Strickland will do well, just because he's going to have that amazing defense and his accuracy is always there, it's just that he doesn't really throw enough. I just think that Dricus has that style to beat Sean, and it is that pressure style. It is the ability to mix it up. And Dricus Du Plessis has shown in his career an ability to game plan really well for fights. Against Strickland, he didn't wrestle early, wrestled towards the middle of the fight a lot, went to the body on him to open up the headshots. And against Adesanya, what he seemed to be doing in that fight is he kind of took his foot off the gas in the beginning of the rounds and then really went after Adesanya like sort of got his work in the beginning of the rounds, went after him at the end of the rounds. But make no mistake, Dricus Du Plessis is not going to ragdoll Sean Strickland on the ground. Adesanya is much worse on the ground than Sean Strickland. He doesn't have the same jiu-jitsu. Sean Strickland, a lot of people are starting to forget this, but has the jiu-jitsu background, came into the UFC with a jiu-jitsu background, and just, again, doesn't get held down. So Dricus is not going to manhandle him, and it's going to be hard for Dricus to hit Strickland. It's not like, oh, now he means business, and now we hate Sean Strickland, so now he's going to knock him out. Nope. It's going to be very close. Dricus is going to win this, though. All right. And this is why I am picking Dricus and not Sean Strickland. Although I know Strickland's going to do well, it just seems like he doesn't have enough offense. He picks his shots too much, and I just don't see that working against somebody that's going to pressure him a lot, like a Dricus Du Plessis, who's also going to mix in the takedowns. Again, I said that pressure works on Sean Strickland. We've seen it with Cannonier. Very close fight. Cannonier mixed it up to the body and was able to edge it out. But now you have Dricus, who's got really good body kicks, who's going to be able to mix it up, who's super unorthodox, who's good at game planning, and he's going to mix in the wrestling, which is going to open up the big shots upstairs, which is going to make Sean Strickland, which is going to make Sean Strickland respect the pop, which is going to make him more hesitant to throw, which is going to make Dricus Du Plessis have an easier time to output and outpoint Sean Strickland. And it's basically going to be the same thing. If you watch the middle rounds for Dricus and Sean Strickland in the last fight, I mean, again, it's like for every 2 strikes of Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis throwing 4 and mixing in a takedown. Strickland may have better accuracy. He seems to land like 100% of his punches, but even against Paulo Costa, teep, teep, and he throws 2 punches around, and only one of them has sting on it. So I don't know. I mean, Strickland has good pressure, but this is the one guy where he can't seem to back him up. If Strickland's in there with somebody that's not constantly going to try to bulldoze you, I could see him like maybe getting a later round finish, but like he should have done that against Costa. That's what I was expecting. Not for him to finish Costa, but I expected him to beat the fuck out of Costa if he were to be in a situation where, you know, he can kind of teep him and keep him at bay. But he didn't. He kind of just didn't throw any punches with commitment. So, yeah, I'm picking Dricus. He'll mix in the takedowns. Will he have a whole lot of success with them? I don't think so. But he's just going to mix it in just to get Sean Strickland to bring his hands down, to get him thinking. The body kicks are great. Once he starts landing the big shots upstairs, that's going to be good. And I think Dricus is more likely to have a trick up his sleeve than Sean Strickland. Like, Strickland's last fight where he had a trick up his sleeve was against Imavov, where he threw in a couple takedowns. I don't see him doing that in this fight. But my point is, if there's any one of these fighters that's going to have like some really goofy technique or unexpected thing that he's going to do, it's probably going to be Du Plessis. Like, Du Plessis is going to be the fighter to, he's going to like, you know, have a huddle with his team and they're all going to be saying, all right, round 4, you got to do this. And he's going to do like a Captain Underpants charge, bum rush into a somersault and into a takedown. Like, that's more likely to happen from Dricus. Okay? He's going to have like those extra tricks where it's like, yeah, here's something crafty you didn't expect. Right? Again, the pressure, the durability. Sean Strickland can hurt you if he catches you with the right shot. I mean, we've seen it against Adesanya. I mean, he dropped Adesanya not because Adesanya was chinny, but because he just caught Adesanya with the perfect punch. Dricus Du Plessis may have a granite chin, but he's taken a lot of damage. It's not going to be the best chin forever. And also, again, Strickland has the ability to be a sharpshooter. But I think he's just going to fight the way he always fights. It's going to be super patient. It's going to be teeps, and it's going to be jabs, and it's hardly going to have any right hands in them. I mean, there's hardly going to be any right hands mixed in there. Maybe one around if you're lucky. So I don't really see Strickland like putting Dricus out with a counter shot. I think he's just a little bit too reserved. That's the issue. He's just a little bit too output, a little bit too low output, a little bit too reserved, doesn't really take risks. And Dricus is not going to have the thought in his mind of, okay, I got to respect this guy's pop, because not a whole lot's going to be coming back in his direction. It's going to be just enough for Sean Strickland to sort of, you know, keep him at bay a little bit, but not enough to really get respect. I think we'll probably see like a 48-47. Maybe we see Sean Strickland take one of the later rounds again, like he won the 5th round in the last one. I think it's going to be very similar to the first one. Could Strickland win? Yeah, he could get it done because he arguably won the last one. But I think if any one of these fighters is going to make the better adjustments, it's going to be Dricus, because Sean just seems to fight the same exact way every single time, where I think Dricus' style, because he can do a whole lot, he can kind of change it a little bit more. I just think he has more options, and you can always count on the toughness. You can always count on the heart. Whereas for Sean Strickland, like, you just can't count on him to actually let his hands go more often, it seems. So, yeah, Dricus should win this one, but it's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.